The cycling industry is always trying to sell you new stuff, and as a newer rider like me, it can be pretty difficult to work out what you actually need. For example, bike computers. These wee contraptions can cost a pretty penny, but do you actually need one? Well, the answer is it depends. In this video, I'm going to outline 3 different types of rider, and you may well fall into one of these categories, and that's going to help us to solve that preeminent first world problem. Do you actually need a bike computer? We're going to start this video by answering the big question up front. No, you do not need a bike computer. The bicycle was invented in 1817 by Baron Karl von Drais, and the first bike computer, the first modern bike computer anyway, wasn't invented until 1981. So that means that for 164 years, no one was uploading rides to Strava. It's an absolute tragedy. Side note, when I was doing the research for this video, I discovered that in 1895, an American called Curtis Wieder invented the first what he called cyclometer, which was like a really early bike computer. And the marketing message behind it was, it's nice to know how far you go, which funnily enough is kind of exactly what bike computers do these days still. Anyway, history lesson aside, my point is you can absolutely get out and enjoy your bike without needing a bike computer. But for some people, they do make sense. I'm just going to interrupt here briefly and say if you're enjoying this video and you find it useful, please remember to hit subscribe down below. That's it, plug over. Now, before we get into the different rider types, I want to outline all the things this little contraption can do. First up, navigation. If you're doing longer rides or you're kind of in areas that you don't tend to know, having turn-by-turn directions on the bike can be super useful. Also, they can display metrics such as how far you've ridden, how fast you're going, how much you've climbed, how far you have left to go. The list goes on and on and on. And if you pair your bike computer with a heart rate monitor and or power pedals, you get even more data to see how you're getting on your ride. Sort of linked into that is ride tracking. After you finish your session, all the data can be displayed through like Garmin Connect or Strava, things like that, and that can help you to unpick where you were strong and what areas you need to improve on. Lastly, just a couple of small things. Food and drink reminders. This might not sound like a big deal, but if you're doing a big event, for example, I rode my first Sportive recently, video linked up above, the food and drink reminders were really useful because I had a fueling strategy and I needed to keep on top of it. When you're in the event, you're kind of zoned into the race and what's going on around you, and these reminders kind of help to snap you back into place and go, oh yeah, I need to remember to eat. Also, incident detection. If the worst should happen, a lot of these head units can contact a loved one and let them know that you've had a bit of a whoopsie. Hopefully you shouldn't need it, but it's nice to know it's there. Right, so with that all in mind, I think it kind of begs an obvious question. Why can't I just use my phone? Well, to be honest, you can. We all walk around nowadays with basically a supercomputer already in our pocket, and your phone can absolutely do all of these things I've just mentioned. You can track your rides via apps like Strava. You can of course use it for turn-by-turn directions, and your phone is a phone. You can absolutely use it to call somebody if you have an accident or if you need help. But it's not the most ideal solution always, and here's a couple of areas where your phone might struggle. Firstly, connectivity. Bike computers are specifically designed to work in concert with things like heart rate monitors and power meters. And while these can connect to your phone, it can be a little bit clunky. Also, having your phone mounted on your handlebars is, in my opinion, not the brightest idea. Firstly, your phone is an expensive bit of kit. It's not really been designed to be rattled around like that. And of course, depending on your mount, it could fall off into the road. Absolute disaster. Also, if you're using your phone in direct sunlight, the screen is going to need to be on maximum brightness, and that will kill your battery. You really don't want to be 3 hours away from home at the furthest point of your long ride when your navigation stops working. Also, if your phone's mounted right on the front of the bike and you do have an accident, chances are it might get smashed to pieces. And this is potentially your lifeline to the outside world. Having it all broken is absolutely no use to you. Better in your pocket. Okay, so with all that covered, let's get into our 3 different types of riders and see which ones a bike computer does make sense for. First up, we have what I'm calling the weekend wanderer. You use your bike for exploration, for kind of staying active. You're not particularly worried about heart rate or power data. You're kind of just out there to have a bit of fun. You're mostly sticking to routes that you already know, and you're not really in a hurry and not worried about your average speed and things like this. Maybe you'll upload your ride to Strava, but that's about as far as the tracking is going to go. For you, you probably don't really need a bike computer. Your phone can do basically everything that I've just told you. The only use you'd get out of a bike computer really is for navigation, but if you're already riding routes that you know, the navigation isn't so important. And if you're not that bothered about stopping every once in a while and checking your phone to check you're on course, you'll probably get away with it and you'll be fine. It's not really within the scope of this video for me to start comparing different models. There's lots of videos out there that already do that really, really well. But if this sounds like you and you do want a bike computer, I'd recommend something along the lines of the Garmin Edge Explorer. It's great for navigation and it doesn't have all the kind of advanced training metrics that you're probably not going to use anyway. Incidentally, I would say commuters fall into this kind of weekend wanderer category. You know, if you're commuting, you're probably doing the same route, so navigation isn't for you. You're probably going through rush hour traffic, so you're not going to be setting PBs or KOMs or anything like that. And you too can basically get away with your phone if you do want to track your rides. Next up, we have what I'm calling the casual competitor. Yes, I made these names up myself. This person's a wee bit more invested in the weekend warrior. They possibly use cycling as part of their training for other sports or just to keep fit. They like to see their heart rate. This person probably wears either like a sports watch or a Fitbit or something like that. They know their resting heart rate, they like tracking these things, and they're interested in the different metrics. They probably aren't following a structured training specifically for cycling. And while they may take part in events like a big sportive or something like that, they're not setting like really strict goals that they're trying to stick to with this. To be honest, this person's the hardest one to advise because you're right on the cusp of where a bike computer starts to make sense. For example, if you do running and things like that and you're used to seeing heart rate and other metrics on your running watch, it feels weird not to have them when you're on the bike. I mean, you can get away with it, but it does feel a wee bit strange. Again, as well, this person might now be taking on kind of longer routes when navigation becomes more of a concern. And, you know, as mentioned, the bike computers can be really handy for this. So yeah, the casual competitor is sort of in the middle, and bike computers are pretty expensive, so it's difficult to make a blanket statement which says yes or no for this person. I would say that if you do end up getting a bike computer, it's absolutely worthwhile pairing it with a heart rate strap. Of course, you can get your heart rate from your watch or your Fitbit or whatever. The problem is, in my experience, when I've got my hands on the handlebars, the watch jiggles around and it gives a really unreliable heart rate read, at which point I might as well not have the heart rate data at all. So heart rate strap, big upgrade. Incidentally, I'd say my wee sister falls into this category, and she uses the aforementioned Garmin Edge Explorer and finds it really, really good. This is not meant to be an ad for Garmin stuff. It's just that I tend to use it and she uses it, so that's why I'm mentioning it. But there's absolutely other brands like Wahoo, Coros, there's a whole load. And last, but by no means least, we have the Structured Savant. This person's probably following a structured training plan to directly improve their cycling, and every session has a point, whether it's threshold intervals, long rides, kind of easy spins to aid recovery. Yeah, they've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole perhaps. For this person, in my opinion, a bike computer absolutely makes sense. Your bike computer's gonna end up being sort of like your coach on the bike, and it's gonna keep you in the right zones and things for the adaptations that you want to see. Speaking of which, if you are this person and you do get a bike computer, I 1000% recommend pairing it with a heart rate strap and power pedals. The power pedals or power meter of some kind, these can be expensive, but I got one and it was such a big difference. It's so good to be able to track that data and keep everything exactly where it wants to be. I do just want to caveat this section a little bit by saying that you can potentially get away with just using a turbo trainer for your sort of high intensity sessions like threshold intervals, over-unders, things like that, and linking it up with Zwift or Ruvi or MyWhoosh, something like that. That way you'll get the power data, you'll get your heart rate, you'll get your cadence, all that good stuff, and it's actually easier to stick rigidly to the intervals if you're on the turbo trainer and not out in the real world getting interrupted by traffic lights, cars, dogs, pedestrians, all the rest of it. You can potentially get away with doing your long rides without the bike computer if you just keep things conversational and you know they're meant to stay easy. But to be honest with you, I would lean towards saying yes, absolutely get a bike computer. So which of these categories do I fall into? Well, maybe given what I've said, it's not a surprise, but I fall into the Structured Savant category, although I would put Savant in big brackets. I'm still pretty much a beginner. I do structured training, I'm trying to improve my FTP, I started doing events and things like that, and every session has a point. So the bike computer helps me to keep track of everything and make sure I'm hitting the right numbers when I'm out in the real world and not on the turbo trainer. Another reason why I use a bike computer is because for me, seeing all the numbers and hopefully seeing things improve over time is really, really motivating. So the bike computer helps me keep going and setting new goals. The computer that I use personally is this. This is a Garmin Edge 1040. There's a few reasons why I use this one. Firstly, it has a nice large screen, which is good for the maps. I get lost constantly, even in places that I kind of vaguely know. So having good navigation makes my life a lot easier. It's also not the most modern model. There's a 1050, this is the 1040. But the upgrades to the 1050 for me weren't worth the extra money it was going to cost to get the newest unit. And lastly, this has basically every feature I'm going to need, so it should do me for a good while. So while it was expensive up front, I shouldn't really need to be buying a new one anytime soon. Also, as you've probably guessed from this video, I wear a Garmin watch. I use Garmin Connect to sort of log everything, and so the bike computer fitting into that ecosystem just makes things much easier for me. So let's round it off. Do you actually need a bike computer? Well, if you're a weekend wanderer, probably you can get away with just your phone. If you're a casual competitor, that's where things get a bit tricky, and it really has to be done on a kind of case-by-case basis. And if you're structured savant, I would say it probably makes sense to go ahead, pull the trigger, and buy the bike computer. That all being said, I do want to say cycling is absolutely full of gear, and you don't need to measure every metric on every ride to still go out and enjoy riding your bike. It sort of depends what kind of person you are. For me, I love all the numbers, I love the data, and I love analysing what I've done. So that's kind of part of the fun for me. And yeah, if you're directly trying to improve and you're doing structured training, the bike computer is a really, really useful tool. As always, I'm curious to know what you think on this topic, so leave some comments down below. Let me know if you use one or if you're considering using one, why you got it, why you didn't get one. And if you have any questions, I read every comment, so just ask away and I'll do my best to answer in the comment section. Finally, if you found this video useful, please do hit subscribe. You know where the button is. On this channel, we're going to cover a lot more cycling over the coming weeks, months, and years. So please do follow along if that sounds like fun to you. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching.